This is the third Tuesday of the month Waupaca City Council meeting.
Motion carried. Under announcements, we have a presentation of a certificate of appreciation to Brian Johnson for his 20 years of service to the city. Brian was unable to attend, so Justin's going to make sure that he gets that. Thanks, Justin. All right, and then again, still under announcements, we have our annual presentation from the Waupaca Library, and we are happy to have Holly Olson, our library board president, here to make the presentation. Holly, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for having me here.
We may have to, we do have a presentation, so. Josh? It takes it a second. Oh, there it is. Okay, and we may have to turn out some lights. I'm not sure which one. Thanks. Hi.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me here. Lori is also on our board, and Peg is here. So if you have any questions, you can stop us throughout. But this is the annual report, and this is submitted every year to the state, and it's information that is compiled by our staff and the OWLS organization. OWLS is the Outagamie Waupaca Library System, and I'm going to be referring to that a lot. So first of all, you can see this is our tagline, our values, our mission, and our vision, and we have worked in the past to create these. This tagline is new this year, and you can see it on banners that are around, including some of our logo, and it's prominently displayed in the children's department. So hopefully you've been down there to take a look at the exhibit room, but also in the children's department. So let's take a look at 2017. You can see here that we had over 9,000 registered borrowers. The city of Waupaca has just over 6,000 people, so over half of them have library cards. The non-resident borrowers are mainly from the 4 townships that surround the cities, as well as people from Portage and Waupaca County. The library regularly is open for 6 days a week for a total of 56 hours, and the average daily visits are over 450 people per day, and the average checkouts is, you can see there, over 4,000. Last month, our library board decided that we wanted to open an additional hour on Saturday, and that was due to staff input, but also things that we heard from our community to be open an extra hour on that Saturday morning. So this graph shows you where our patrons live, and that largest orange area is the city of Waupaca. And that's over 40%. The surrounding towns use the library quite a bit. And while the population of the city is about 6,000 people, our service area is close to 18,000 people. And our service area can be considered what the school district of Waupaca is. Waupaca County and Waupaca County both reimburse the city for the use of the library. However, Portage County, which makes up about 10% of the library use, does not support our library financially, and current laws do not require Portage County to reimburse us for our library. So we have been addressing this issue, and we hope to make some progress with Portage County over the next few months or years. This next slide is about sharing library materials throughout the OWL system. Our library provides a number of corresponding items to our neighboring libraries, and about 20% of our items that are checked out actually travel to other libraries from our library in our system. So we have a large collection that we are able to share with our other patrons in other libraries. So speaking of checkouts, you can see the checkouts here that orange is 33%, and that is about a third for children. So we really are working on a goal of early childhood literacy and working with the children's department and families to have different resources for those students to read and continue to read and be successful. So when people do check things out, we have noticed a dramatic increase in renewals, and one of the reasons why is that now renewals can be made by text messaging. So patrons can simply check their phones when a library item is due and click a button, and then things are renewed. So that lowest one is in about 2010, so you can see that is a huge jump there. And that's almost up to 50,000 renewals. But the ways that patrons use the library is for the computers and for their internet. And so whether they're looking for employment or looking forms for their taxes, they can take advantage of the computers that we have at the library. And since the cost of devices such as tablets and laptops have become more affordable, patrons often come to the library to use our Wi-Fi and to connect to their own devices. As more and more people come online, we find the library maxing out our bandwidth on a daily basis, and OWLS has made an upgrade, has planned for an upgrade for our library that is going to double our bandwidth from 20 megabits per second to 50 megabits per second. And we're fortunate that our internet service is provided through funding through the TEACH program, and that's from OWLS, and that is something that is you got it, for schools and libraries and other educational institutions. So next we're taking a look at the internet use. This chart demonstrates the use of internet on the computers that are provided by the library and the patrons that are connecting to our library for free through the Wi-Fi. Another way that patrons are using resources through ebooks and e-audios, and this is through the Wisconsin Digital Library, and the downloads continue to increase, and we still offer a weekly program to help patrons with their digital devices. It's called Tablet Time. So if any of you need any help with any of your own devices, you can come down to the library on Thursdays and book a librarian. Our library also helps to fund ebooks and audiobooks that are available to all Wisconsin residents with a library card, and our cost to our library is about 32 cents per download. So that's even less than a cup of coffee. Another service that our library provides is programs, and the children programming and the literacy are one of the focuses for the children's department. This year, the library has added whiteboards that are in the main lobby, and they encourage people of all ages to write and respond to the questions. So there has been things about poetry and drawing things on, and that is a way that we found out that people wanted to have the Saturdays open a little bit longer. Also downstairs is our exhibit room, and we had 8 different offerings with special programs for each one of those. So all of these things cost money. So this is a graph about tax dollars. Tax dollars support wages and programs, materials, and services. The Waupaca's library cost per circulation is $3.02, and that is the second lowest in the county, with Fremont Library at $2.82 per circulation. So the county residents pay for the library services through the Waupaca County tax bill, and the residents of Waushare County who also use the library and are billed through are billed also. So this is taking a look at some of where our expenditures are. And while the library has provided materials, we have approximately 14 full-time staff members, and that includes building, maintenance, and cleaning staff. We pride ourselves on having such a high level of customer service that we're able to provide, and our staff help community members find the right resources, entertainment, or educational. Also let the staff selects and orders and processes new materials. There was over 5,000 new items that were added, and our library staff are highly trained to use technology that allows them to help patrons with their technical questions. And though you can see also there are some other operating and building expenses. But last year, so you can see this is the back room of the library where the staff is. And last year, the city had new carpeting laid in the main floor and space. And along with the carpet, staff worked with Russ Montgomery, the building maintenance to improve workflow. And the staff has been finding this is much more efficient and has a nice flow for them. In addition to the funds that are provided through taxes, the library depends on copier income, overdue fees, and meeting room rent. The Library Foundation and the Friends of the Library are residents that help us do the work that we can do at the library. Funding for these programs, both for new and specialized equipment and library materials, are granted through both the Friends and the Foundation. And in this past year, we finalized our security system that you can see in the top left corner and self-checkout machines. And to date, the Foundation has given over $150,000 for our updates. So besides the materials that we offer, the library provides space for people to gather to show their interests and learn something new. This year, the library board opened meeting rooms to allow for private parties and businesses. So we have different clubs that meet in those meeting rooms on a regular basis. And our own staff provide a variety of programs that keep our public engaged in learning. We've had authors and community members and even therapy dogs provide opportunities for activities. So we're continuing to look for partners with the Waupaca schools, and also Winchester calls the library its home. So we invite children and families to have fun at the library while gaining early literacy experience, and a new initiative is working with coding. So anytime you go downstairs, you can see many things happening in that learning space. So OWLS, again, is the Outagamie Waupaca Library System. And this is kind of the final entry in the final annual report, and I'm just going to read through this for you. Over the past year, the Waupaca Area Library has had tremendous support from the Outagamie Waupaca Library System. One area they have supported is technology, and they continue to assist the staff. OWLS has also worked with area counties for monetary support and assisted in state statutes. They continue to offer educational opportunities for our staff and give scholarships, and offer support for our youth liaison, and promotional materials and monetary assistance for our summer library program. The Waupaca Area Library is grateful for the OWLS support. So looking ahead, so here are some goals for the rest of the year. Some of our mission and our vision and our values are guiding principles for the library and the important work that we do. So as we move forward, we're looking forward to hiring a teen librarian and employees to replace retiring staff members. We also plan to hire individuals that will assist in innovation. And if you provide great services, we want to have the best staff available. We also plan to continue our efforts towards all kinds of literacy, including financial literacy, coding, and other skills that will help our community. And we've also seen a progress with a new fax machine, an additional hour on Saturday, and allowing internet access even if the patron is delinquent in their fines. We will concentrate on our efforts in building bridges with business and community members and working with our city as they go through the remodeling of the parking lot and the outdoor learning library space, while working with our stakeholders to help out with our library. So this was a slide that we showed last year, and out of those 4 things, 3 of those things are happening. The security gates and the self-checkouts and the coding. And the makerspace there, we're going to be working with our long-range plan on how we can turn the exhibit room into more of a hands-on makerspace. So whether you're checking out books or attending a program or learning a new skill, we are very proud of our library and the people that are our patrons there. And so come on down to the library for an event or a program, and Right now, we'll take some questions.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Holly, thank you very much for the presentation. It's always good to see what's going on in the library. And I think many people don't understand how much the Library Foundation helps our everyday process too. So it's neat to see that. Thank you.
Holly, I noticed in your, one of your slides that the usage in the library, the numbers, the teen usage is very small. So I'm happy that you're thinking about a teen librarian. I think that's really a good idea.
Well, we lost it.
Yep.
Speak into the microphone. We lost our teen librarian. She was promoted to assistant director, so now we're looking to hire towards the end of the summer after we've gone through summer reading. And we do have a teen intern who's filling in for that this summer and is doing a really good job. So yes, that's true. We want to connect more with the schools, and we think that opportunity is going to be there with our new teen librarian.
Good.
The Portage County vacuum or whatever, lack of funding, what is that number estimated to be that they should be paying?
Well, if they were statutorily required to pay, it would be about $30,000. That's the 70% of what it costs us to serve the patrons who use our library. It's about 10% of our circulation at this point. It's significant, but the people who are using our library, who live in Portage County, are generally in our school district. So if we were to say, I'm sorry, you can no longer use the Waupaca Library, you don't provide any support for that, we would find that there are families and children that didn't have the library. So we have a plan on how to gain support from Portage County, and we're going to be working on that.
Great. Thank you.
There's 3 more to come.
Oh, okay. There's nothing going on behind my back, is there?
Couple rabbit ears.
Okay, just checking. All right, let's move on to public input. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak to us on a non-agenda item, please step up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and limit your discussion to 3 minutes or less. Any public input that we want to tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on then to the department head reports, and we'll start with our finance director, Kathy.
Thank you, Mary. Good evening, council members. My report starts on page 4 of the packet, and just an update that all of the state reports this year have been filed on time, and we're working now on the TIF district report, which will be on the council meeting for the June 5th meeting, and then reviewing that same report with the Joint Review Board as required by statute. We're going out now to look at liability, auto physical damage, workers' comp, property and health insurance renewals, which should start the process. Our main insurance policies have an expiration date of July 1st. So we'll be getting quotes from the insurance companies for renewals. We are going to be looking at the new Municipal Property Insurance Corporation fund that's being administered through the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and see how it compares to our current property insurance provider. We got our 2017-18 P card purchasing card rebate, and it was $17,127.46. We spent just under $1 million this year on the card, but we make up a group of 155 municipalities and school districts and tech colleges that spent over $242 million in this program and generated a rebate of over $4 million to these, which is better than what I'm getting in investments in the bank. So this is one of my interest type of uses for the funds. And we'll be moving at the end of this month to the new state program with U.S. Bank, which has a higher rebate percentage, over 2%. So I'm going to be giving information to the departments by the end of the month to start that program. And we're getting ready to start the 2019 budget. We'll do the same format as we did last year, with starting with the TIF districts, going on to personnel, capital projects, and then the departments. So it'll be another interesting year.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, let's move on to the library. Peg?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I did hand out some little announcement cards about our program that's coming up next Thursday night at the library. It's called, well, it's actually The State of Craft Beer is the name of the book that the author has written who's coming. And he visited all the breweries in Wisconsin and kind of has a lot of knowledge about that. So he's going to be talking about his book, and then we have the Badgers Brewers Den coming in and providing beer samples, and we do have a permit for that. So, but you will be carded at the door if you arrive. So have your IDs ready. And that starts at 6:30 next Thursday night. Our last week of our exhibit is this week. So it's Hubcap as Art. It's a traveling exhibit. It has been all over the United States, and so I hope you have an opportunity to come in and see it. It's really quite phenomenal. We continue to have our baby garden Tuesdays and Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., and our Builders Club is meeting this Saturday in the Children's Department. Our summer library program is going to be starting next month, and we're really excited. This new program will allow people to make their own reading goal. So, you know, it's not one size fits all, but make your own reading goal and then try and stick to it. So join us at the library. Thank you.
Thanks, Peg. Brennan?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. My report's on page 57. There's a lot of action items on tonight that relate to my department, so I'll bypass those. But just want to give an update to the Common Council as a reminder that after Memorial Day that we will be going to a four-way stop at Badger and Maine, and along with Fulton, Maine. We're going to be doing the pilot program again, so we are working with the Public Works Department right now to get all that prepared, and signage will be put back out on the street, and working with Josh's department right now to get the survey back up on the website, and we'll be going door to door in the next week to week and a half to talk to the businesses and get some surveys put out there at their facilities as well. And just an update on where we are with a couple of our RFPs that we sent out. We did receive 16 RFP responses for the branding and wayfinding study. We narrowed it down to 6, and we'll be doing those interviews Thursday and Friday of this week and bringing a recommendation forward to the Common Council hopefully in early June. And we did also send out an RFP for the bike and ped plan, but at this time, due to the lack of responses, we are going to table that project and wait until the new Park and Rec director gets on board and may refacilitate and bring that project back forward for 2019.
Great. Thanks, Brennan. Justin Behrens.
Thank you, Mayor. My memo of my packet can be seen on page 58 and 59. Starting as usual with the wastewater, some bad news. We've experienced several order issues recently, and it's kind of a result of several things of our process, some of what we see from the chain, and then also we are hauling the spring field application, so I'll combine that all together. We've had some issues. We're working on it. It should improve dramatically within the next week or so. So we ask for patience, and we are working on that and looking actually for long-term solutions so it doesn't happen again into the future. We're expecting our new pickup before the end of the month, so we're excited about that. And Jeff Dyer, our wastewater superintendent, has announced his retirement, his intent to retire. His last day working here will be on May 31st. Jeff has been an excellent employee for the last 15 years. He was brought on June 6th of 2003, to be a lab tech at the wastewater treatment plant. And from what I understand, he was brought on because we had received several violations with our lab from the DNR. Since he's been brought on board, we have received 0 violations or citations from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. So His work, his intelligence will be missed, but we have a solid crew down there that wish him the best, and we'll be wishing him well in his future. Street side of it, we are starting the work on the fire barn apron. You go by, you'll see some brand new concrete on the ground. As Brendan has mentioned, we are planning the flashing signals on Main Street. We are in the process of hiring a couple new street personnel. We were short one guy, and while we were interviewing, we had Casey Martinez jump back to Park and Rec. So we think we have 2 solid guys brought on board. It's not official yet. I'll make an announcement at the next meeting. So, and to make everyone aware, next week is Public Works Week, National Public Works Week. Tuesday we will be having our annual lunch down at South Park, so you are all welcome to attend. Say hi to the guys, pat them on the Swan Park. Sorry, not South Park, Swan Park. Sorry.
Look at, he's sending us to the wrong place.
He doesn't really want to say
He just doesn't want us there, yeah.
And then, of course, we have our school visit with the coloring contest and the equipment, you know, spending time with the second graders over at the WLC. Water utility, we did submit and advertise our consumer confidence report, our annual drinking water quality report that's out there, that's been submitted to the DNR, so that's all taken care of. If anybody has any questions, it's on the website, or call City Hall if you want a copy. We are looking for a custodian. We're short on that, so if you know of anybody who wants a part-time custodian position, please let me or Russell know. And we've done our annual railroad track inspections, and we have more maintenance issues out there, which I will not be talking about tonight, but shortly in the future here. Still trying to sift through the details and get that all put together. So the rest is informational in the packet.
Thanks, Justin. Andrew, Parks and Rec?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Couple things tonight. We'll start with some senior center stuff. You may have or should have received an invite to their open house, which is this Friday, May 18th from 9 to noon. Down in the senior center, they're going to have some program stuff going on, some activities, some games. So we'd like to welcome all of you to come down and check out what Sarah's doing down there and the improvements that she's made as well. So stop on down if you're available. On June 15th, they're going to start working on a mural on the side wall by what's called Serenity Park down there. We're actually going to get a little bit of help, 3 to 4 people from WLUK, which is a news agency. They sent some people over last year, had a great time working with Sarah and her staff, so they want to come back and help. They'll be there that day to help out as well, and that's from 11 to 3 if you want to come check that out on June 15th to see what they're doing down there. Josh and myself are meeting with Sean Sullivan from the DNR on Thursday at Riverside Park. We're having an issue with the river and water cutting through the point that comes out towards the park at this point, and it's just continually getting worse, and so we need to decide what needs to be done. We're at this part of that project where we're working with the landowners to see how much would be disturbed to get on their side to get that fixed, and hopefully we can come to an agreement and figure out a plan to stop that before it takes the river essentially out of the park and the recreation activities that we have there. So that's a pretty major thing that we're working for. Josh again, Roger and myself met out at Oz with the landowners last week to come to not an agreement, but how we're going to fulfill our agreement on what needs to be done out there. So we have met with them. I checked in with them today to make sure things are moving forward. They need to do one thing first, and then we'll come in. Roger and his crew and Josh will come in and we'll take care of that and finalize that as we move forward as well. Swan Park, the lights are completely switched over. I know I've updated on that a few times. The boys baseball project is going to be held off till July 14th that we talked about, the cantilever covers. Because we need WPS to come in and dig the holes for us, and they weren't able to find enough help, and we ran into a few small issues, so we met with the board and decided that it'd be safer to wait till after the seasons have played out to move forward with that, and everyone was in agreement with that, and I think we'll be okay. We do have a broken bridge right now at the playground out at Swan Park. We're waiting for a custom part to be ordered to fix that, so we have it completely blocked off right now. All of a sudden, that park, if you guys remember, is getting pretty old, and that equipment is getting pretty old. So the person that's helping us fix that is also going to do a deep, thorough inspection of the playground to make sure that there's no underlying issues, because we kind of dodged a bullet there that no one got hurt when that got broken that evening, and someone was nice enough to let us know right away. So we're going to have that inspected to make sure we're keeping people safe out there. As far as programs, we have date night coming up Friday, May 25th. That's a program where people can come and drop their kids off for a small fee and then go out into the public and enjoy an evening and hopefully spend some money at our local restaurants. Baseball started, softball starts tomorrow, men's softball next week, t-ball the week after that. Soccer, swimming, and summer programs are coming up as well, so we have a lot going on during this time as well. And our first movie in the park, which will be The Lion King, will be Friday, June 8th at dusk in Upper South Park. So if you want to come out and enjoy a movie with community members, we have that as well. Thank you.
All right. Busy time. Thank you, Andrew. Chief Hozell.
Thank you, Mayor. My report can be found on page 38. The Police Commission held its annual meeting on May 8th, and they did an election of officers again. Brian Gildevan will continue to be the chairman, and Jim Schultz will serve as secretary for another year. Upon meeting with the commission members, we went over our policies that we had for the police department. We have some of them that are outdated back to 2004, so we're taking a look and we're going to be redrafting our policies for the police department. So that's a project that may take anywhere from 1 to 2 years before we get everything totally updated. On a very positive note, our drug take-back program was very successful that we held on April 28th. This year we took in 69.2 pounds of prescription medication as compared to 57.45 pounds last spring. So that was a real positive that we were able to get that stuff and get it destroyed in the proper facility that it needed to. Also this week is National Police Week that began on May 13th of this year, and it ends actually on May 19th, this Saturday. And we had a luncheon at the police department for the retirees and the current officers. And this year we gave out 3 different awards within our department. There's 2 life-saving awards that Officer Dan Wasrud and Officer Brent Whitman each were successful in saving somebody when they responded to a call. They assisted Gold Cross, and if it wouldn't have been for their efforts, I don't know if that person would be here. So they got that award, and also John Helgeson received the Exceptional Service Award. If you remember, we had an arson up in Union Street. I believe that was back in 2015 or 2016, and he was able to get some confessions based off some evidence that was found and going through some old pictures and really dedicating a lot of time. And also we had another cold case that was a robbery that took place, and it took a few years for us to get the evidence back from the crime lab with some fingerprints, and he traveled all over the state talking to different people, and he was able to get confessions and that. So those 3 did a great job for our department. And then lastly, for everybody, Andrew's talking about Swan Park and all the baseball and softball that's going on out there. For those of you who haven't noticed, there is a speed board out there that we stuck out there. Try to get people to slow down. We get a lot of children that are on bikes. So the officers will be out there running radar that is 25 miles an hour out there. So hopefully everybody gets there safe. That's all that I have, and everything else is informational in the packet.
Thank you, Chief. IT, Josh.
Well, we'll talk about the Waupaca Online project. The guys have been spending a couple days a week up in the north end of the county, and through different contacts we've gotten, different recommendations we've identified, and they're currently actively setting up 4 pops up there. So we're shooting up to the county tower up just south of Marion, and then from there we're going to relay to these 4 points. One of the silos is someone I connected with at the Bear Creek Town Board meeting, and we found out about a second silo they own, which is in a very strategic location, which just a small sliver of an area that also sees to Waupaca, so we can create some redundancy on this project. So hopefully by the end of the month they have these built and we'll be ready to hook up customers up there. We've got a couple so far that we've done, so things are moving along on that project. I've been spending time at the parks getting different technology and AV-related stuff set up for the summer. Just set up some security cameras at Brainerd's Bridge Park yesterday. That was one area identified as having issues when we went through the parks and evaluated cameras last year. Been doing some work in the computer lab at the senior center, put in some new computers and just getting things up to date over there. And our electronics recycling event, we worked with a new vendor. Things a little bit different, but overall comparable to our past vendor that we worked with. When you advertise a 10:30 start time, everyone's there at 10 o'clock and created a bit of a traffic headache for our police department. But we collected about 23,000 pounds from that event. I've been talking with Terry at the chamber, and we'll be evaluating some other locations to better accommodate such a large traffic. So if that happens again, it's not downtown or in as bad of a spot. Past events, it's backed up, but not like what we saw at this one. So we anticipate again doing another electronics recycling event again next spring. So that's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Henry.
Mayor and Council, my report's on page 64. I have just a couple quick items. The first one is the managed bow hunt that did conclude on April 30. We had 20 tags to use and we used 8. Street Superintendent Roger Hansen did a great job managing that, and I think put together a pretty nice program given a short time frame. I think we had some decent success. We were a little bit late out of the gun, so we're going to tweak it a little bit, and I would expect that staff will be back next winter to seek permission to try it again and start maybe right after the regular bow season concludes. Farmers Market and City Band, there's been a number of discussions about what's going to happen to those projects, events during the parking lot, City Square project. And I think we've just determined to keep them downtown and monitor the situation, and if the construction becomes too objectionable, I've talked to the city band director. He would move the Friday night concerts down into Rotary Riverview Park. And then we have permission to use the former St. Mary Magdalene's parking lot for the farmers market, the Saturday market. The Saturday market does have, I don't want to say an intern, but a paid individual kind of affiliated with UW Extension working to promote the market. So you're going to see, I think, a few more vendors, a little more activity and some things at the market. And then finally, Alderperson Fair and I have tried to figure out a way to get you involved and city staff in taking one of the Waupaca cubes and doing a project. Now, I think we can get it assembled. I don't know if there's any artists in the crew here. But you'll probably hear a little bit about that and try to gin up some support to do a box, because Marcy won't let me say no. So, is she in the audience? I don't know.
She is.
Oh, God. Okay. Is that true, Marcy?
That is true. You committed to it.
Okay. Well, anyways, that's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
How lucky it was, Henry, that you said something good about Marcy.
Yeah.
And she didn't know she was here. Okay. Next, we have unfinished business, ordinance number 0518. Brennan, you want to this is actually the second reading, so we're going to vote on this tonight, but I'm just going to have Brennan refresh you on what's going on here.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item's on page 100, and this is just with the hiring of Jane Draker earlier this year to provide building inspection services to the city. With her credentials and her years of experience in the public service with the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, we have the ability to actually conduct some of our own actual state plan review for projects that are 50,000 cubic feet or less. So a lot of the smaller downtown or smaller renovation projects that typically would go to the state for a state plan review, we will be able to do those in-house because of having Jane on board. So we were required to pass this ordinance that's in front of you this evening to permit us to start doing that for the city.
Okay, everybody understand? This is the second reading, so it's been out, published. I don't know if anybody's had any comments, heard any comments on it. If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve this ordinance.
So move. Second.
Motion by Hackett, second by Fair, that we approve of ordinance number 0518. This is a amendment to chapter 14 of the building permits and inspection. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thank you. Brennan, thank you. Sandy, thanks. Under new business, we have a presentation of our annual financial statements. I see we have Jay Bennett here from Johnson Block and Company. Kathy, do you want to set this up for him? Or?
Sure. Good. My report on the financial statement starts on page 102 of the packet. Tonight we have Johnson Block, Representative Jay Bennett here for going over the 2017 audit. It was a good audit. We ended up on a positive. It was also is going to help us if we go to the market again, whereas our financial position continues to improve over the year. So I'll let Jay go through the details.
Good evening. I have an audit presentation, so I won't go through the full audit report. I believe it's on page 184 of your packet. Summarizes some of the highlights for the audit presentation for this last year. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me.
You can pull your microphone up a little bit here.
You bet. How's that?
Good.
If you have any questions, feel free to stop me as I go through it. And if always, Kathy has my contact info if you would like to get a hold of me afterwards for any other follow-up questions. Page 2 of the presentation here just kind of has an audit overview. Again, we audited the financial statements as of December 31st, 2017, so it's a point in time. With that, we gave an unmodified audit opinion, which is the highest audit opinion that you can give, and it's the audit opinion you've had in the past. Other audit opinions would be a modified opinion, a disclaimer of opinion, or an adverse opinion, just to let you know. So it does help having an unmodified audit opinion when you go out to the bonding companies to get rated and interest costs and those types of things. Everything's been reviewed and approved by Kathy. We give her draft financial statements. There's also in the audit report, there's a separate document for audit communications. I'll go through that a little bit at the end. It just has some management letter recommendations and some follow-up. So actually some things that we've mentioned in the past have gotten addressed and cleaned up this year too. Page 3, 2017 financial statement highlights. It lists there your cash balances by fund. Basically, kind of lists what the major funds are, and then there's non-major funds, and then you have the water and sewer and telecommunications utilities. All those cash balances are listed there separately. I guess one thing I would point out this year is the total cash balance as of the end of the year is a little over $7 million, $7,148,894, which in comparison to last year, which was $5,824,864, is up about $1.3 million roughly. As you see in the next bullet point down, again, it was overall a fairly good year for the city. Fund balance or your net income increased was 1.1 million there, 1,143,771. Last year, you actually had, in 2016, you had a loss of 697,351. Kind of the general fund increased by 158,000 roughly. TIF 4 had an increase of 521,000. Debt service fund had an increase of 148,000. And then the non-major funds, which are all kind of lumped into one here, is a $317,000 increase. So again, a $1.1 million increase in this year. Revenues exceeded expenditures. Overall, also the water utility had a net increase in net position of $98,083. That's really a net income. And sewer utility also had an increase of $161,434 as of the end of the year. And that's on Exhibit A8 of the financial statements if you're looking for costs and revenues. In comparison to the prior year, the water utility had a loss of roughly $7,400, and the sewer had a net income of roughly $80,000 for 2016. So again, both departments' net income was up this year in comparison to the prior years. Page 4 is a pie graph. Basically just kind of shows what your fund balance is. There's four different types of fund balance. Non-spendable, which is more like advances and long-term notes receivable, prepaid expenses. Restricted, 1.3 million there. That's restricted for like paying off your debt or an outside source has legislation, or outside sources gifted money, and it has a restriction on how it's spent. Then you have a signed fund balance. That's basically what management has this stipulated money is going to be used for. That's pretty much for capital projects. And then the unassigned, which is the biggest part there of the fund balance, is a negative, actually, almost 2 million, but it's due mostly to TIF 8. Otherwise, the other fund balances would be positive. TIF 8 had a negative fund balance of roughly 7.6 million at year end. Moving on to page 5. This is a trend in your general fund balance in the last 5 years. So in 2013, it was 1,689,963, and at the end of 2017, you're almost back up to where that balance was, 1,663,259. So overall, your fund balance has dipped a little bit, but it has come up the last couple of years here, or especially this last year. We do have a fund balance policy, and it states that your minimum fund balance policy, that your unassigned fund balance should roughly be 20 to 25% of your budgeted expenditures in the general fund. For the last year, it was 24%. So it's right in following within your policy parameters. Page 6 is another pie chart, just for general fund revenues. You can kind of see the biggest part of the taxes, or the biggest part of the revenue that the city gets is from taxes, which is roughly 61%. 5,588,720. The next biggest share of the income that the city gets in the general fund is intergovernmental, which was roughly 26%. Those two are your biggest revenues. Your most significant intergovernmental revenues, which we'll have another graph here later on, are highway aids, 350,000, some shared taxes and restraint aid, roughly a little bit over $1 million. And then you have county library aid for 372,000. And then a taxi subsidy that you get for 288,000. So those are some of the bigger intergovernmental grants or revenues that the city has. Page 7 is just another, it's a bar graph for showing your property taxes and how it's done over the last 5 years. It actually decreased a little bit in 2017, by about $80,000. But over this 5 years, the tax levy is decreased, or increased, I'm sorry, by about 3.86% over those 5 years. But again, this last year went down a little bit. Page 8 is a bar graph that shows you, shared revenues and expenditure restraint program, which are a big part of your revenues. That has stayed roughly flat over the last 5 years. In 2013, it was $1,046,000. This last year is $1,042,000. And I think for 2018, it's going to be roughly $1,038,000. So pretty flat on any increase in governmental revenue that the city is getting. Page 9 is a pie chart for your governmental expenditures. Again, the biggest part, expenditures, in the red there, roughly 24% is debt service, followed by public safety being 19%, public works 17%, and culture and recreation being 19% of your total expenditures. Overall, between the 2 years, your total expenditures decreased by roughly a little bit over $4 million. That was because in 2016, there was a debt refinancing transaction that retired some old debt. Page 10 is actually a note that's right out of the audit report. It's a summary of the general long-term obligations, general obligation debt, and it shows, bonds payable for the city being $6.1 million at year end, and then notes or loans payable, state trust fund loans, being a little over $4 million. So, total general obligation debt at the end of the year was $10.2 million roughly. It's down from where it was the year previous, which was $11.3 million. So, you got some debt paid off. I didn't show the business type activity debt. That's the revenue bonds usually for the utilities, water, sewer. That's roughly a little bit over $5 million, $5.1 million. Point being, I guess, you can only borrow up for your general obligation debt limit up to 5% of your equalized value. That debt limit would be roughly 21 million, a little over 21 million, 320 for general obligation debt, and geo debt that was subject to that was only 10 million, 193, 638. So you have about a little over half of your debt capacity remaining to borrow for future projects. Moving into page 11, again, there's a separate report to the audit report. It's probably at the end of the financial statements that you have. There is some communications. One of the things is we do have a significant deficiency for preparation of the financial statements. There's nothing wrong with the financial statements. That is a common comment. Usually it takes an expertise for the GASB statements, the notes, the conversions, all those types of things to stay up with those rules and regulations. As I said before, Kathy does review those financial statements, but it does take some expertise. So that's why that comment's in there. Again, it's in 99% of our audit clients. Another comment, which is just an other management letter comment, there was some wage labor allocation to the water utility for a meter project. We do rate cases with the water utility or PSC also, and just came across where they want a time study done when there's ever some labor allocations to the utility. So just want to make sure you note that in the future, if you're charging costs for specific projects through the water utility, you want to have some way of tracking actual benefits and hours and those types of things. It only has to be done potentially once, and then you can allocate based on that. You don't have to keep doing it throughout the year. But again, some other comments that we had last year that were no longer comments this year in our management letter comments was the sick leave policy. That was the one with the payout versus using it for health insurance. You change that so it's no longer an issue. Payroll liabilities the previous year, we had some issues with that reconciling in the audit when we came to do the field work. That was not an issue this year also. In the prior year, we just had noted that the water utility had a small loss. This year, it had a profit. So you're looking, I think, doing a simplified rate case this last year, then too. So we want to thank Kathy and all of her staff for helping us through the audit process. And that would be it for my audit presentation. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions of Jay? Thank you. And Kathy, if I understand right, we have signed on with Johnson and Block.
That's the next item
Oh,
on the
yeah.
agenda.
Okay. I thought it was on the consent agenda, but yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, thank you, Jay, for making the trip up here. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, then let's move on. Engagement of extended audit of financial statements for 2018. Kathy?
This item is on page 194 of the packet. Again, we are going to recommend extending for one more year our outside audit engagement with Johnson Block. We feel that the scope and the professionalism that we get in doing the audit with Johnson Block has been, based on my experience, just fine. I don't see any reason why we should change. They are asking for a 2% increase in their rates. However, it's on billable hours. And each year, as you can see from my memo, we've always gotten away with a little bit less each year. So we're hoping again to reduce the costs of the audit by doing more work and that they come in and leave really fast. And not find anything. So my recommendation is to extend for one more year the audit engagement.
Okay, so recommended by Kathy that we enter into an agreement with Johnson Block for one more year here.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mayo, second by Olson, that we approve of entering into another year of engagement with Johnson Block at a increase of 2%. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Lori Chestnut.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right. Jay, thank you. Safe trip.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good night.
Too. All right. Somebody setting this up. Henry, is this you? Okay. Next, we have a presentation of Arts and Culture Plan for the City of Waupaca by Ann Katz. Henry?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We have Ann Katz with Arts Wisconsin and Megan Matthews with UW-Whitewater. They were our consultants, I guess, to help us with our arts and culture plan. We worked on it for much of 2017. There are some individuals in the audience representing some of our arts groups and interested folks that participate in the process. We realize that it's a long agenda, so I told them about 10 minutes. I want to try to hit the highlights of the plan and then have some time for some questions if need be. So take it away.
All right. Thank you, Henry, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here tonight. We will be quick because you do have a lot to talk about. I'm Ann Katz. I'm Director of Arts Wisconsin. We're the state's community cultural development organization. My colleague, Megan Matthews, is from UW-Whitewater. We have a lot of experience facilitating with nonprofit organizations, local government, businesses, other entities to help plot a course of action based on the assets of a community. So our organization covers the entire state, and we work on asset-based community development. We provide advocacy service and development for everything connected with the arts and creativity around the state. And so, again, nonprofits, local government, educators, the business community, pretty much everyone who cares about Wisconsin's future. we have to congratulate Waupaca because there are very few communities of this size actually putting resources and energy into a strategic plan. Thank you for your support of this. It does make a difference. And what we particularly liked was that it is part of sort of the overall comprehensive planning that the city has been doing. And so it's not that there's some kind of separate plan out there that won't be noticed, but that it is aligned with the goals and opportunities of the city and the community. So just to go over the process a little bit, as Henry said, we've been spending over a year on this, I think. Megan and I have been here numerous times, and many community residents put in many, many hours of thought, of process, of deliberation, and of dreaming about what could build on what is already a robust creative economy. I should say that when I say the words creative economy, what I mean is that the people, organizations, businesses, and communities that are involved in the arts in this community, in the state, and the world. There is research that shows that there are over 9,100 businesses involved in the creative sector in Wisconsin, and almost 51,000 people with full-time jobs involved in creative kinds of jobs. So that's not only nonprofit organizations, but it's mostly small businesses, galleries, media, architectural firms, design firms. So there's a wide range of people and entities involved with creativity, and certainly creativity is a resource that in the 21st century economy is of paramount importance. We all have to come up with good ideas to help our communities thrive and help our people get to work and help educate our kids and have a good community. So again, Waupaca really is leading the way on this because there are a lot of people working and a lot of communities working in the creative sector, but not a lot of communities that have made the commitment, as you have, to really bring people together and make a difference. We have a very strong partnership with the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. In fact, this week is Creative Economy Week, so it's great that we're standing here and talking to you about the creative economy because we're celebrating the arts and creativity with local government and in communities around the state. So the timing is good. As I said, there have been many residents in Waupaca, not just yes, people involved in the arts, but people involved in business and education and entrepreneurship and community life that have provided input and really spent a lot of time on this. I just want to note that Rick Walter and Marcy Reynolds are here as community representatives. I'm not sure there's anybody. They have been extremely involved. Mary Fair has represented the council as part of the planning committee. And in your report, in the report that we wrote, the plan that we wrote, we have a lists of the people that have been involved. So now I'm going to let Megan talk about the plan itself and give you some of the highlights. We will say that you've got a great plan, and now the hard work, the good work really begins, because now the community members that have put a lot of effort into this and a lot of other people will really start to make this plan come alive. So we look forward to to being involved and seeing how it comes out. So thank you for your support. I'll turn it over to Megan.
Hello. Let me first tell you. Oh. Am I too close? Am I too far?
It only happened to you.
I know, right? I'll keep going if that's okay. Okay. Because I'm a teacher and I can pretty much talk over anything, just so you know, and I'm enthusiastic about it 98% of the time. So please let me, so you know where I come at this from is I first came to the world in arts management, and there we go. And then I came to the world in arts entrepreneurship. And now
I get really, really excited about creativity in business. That's where I'm coming from. And I love planning. I am a total planning geek. So the opportunity to come in and talk with you about this stuff is fun. You can think I'm weird, it's okay. But I'm really, what you need to know is that people worked hard and this is good. And what you do here in this community is good. You've got some amazing things going on. So what I just want to briefly tell you is that through all this process that Ann was talking about, we came up with 4 main areas that they're going to be working on as far as the plan is concerned. The one is the art as a community resource. That's the first one. And that's basically about talking about creating economic opportunity for artists, arts organizations, businesses. It's not just about people who consider themselves artists. It's about how can they be a positive part of the rest of the community, right? So how can we create economic development through creative industries with artists so that the community does a whole lot better? It's also about strengthening connections between Waupaca's history and its future. I mean, we really took a look at not just what's going on now, but what amazing things has happened in Waupaca that we can make the most of. Then we took a look at the second thing was the art as a family resource, arts as a family resource. And there we were talking about working with the schools. And I heard people talking, the library's doing some amazing things, and the pieces are all coming together, right? So there's working with arts program with schools and community and trying to get students more access to the arts, because as Ann was talking about, I got to tell you, when we talk to employers, they want creative, critical thinkers. I mean, I can give you statistics, which I won't, but if you're curious, talk to me later. But I mean, I've got statistics where it's like, we want students who can think differently. And it isn't just about being a painter. It's about someone who can come up with a new process or a product or a way of doing things or a structure of an organization. That's all creative. And so providing these kinds of opportunities to students is going to be an asset for the community. It's going to be pretty cool. So the third thing we talked about was the arts and quality of life. And basically taking a look at expanding the quality of life for everybody, and also taking a look at some of the things in the community that aren't working so well, and how can the arts and creative things be an asset there and be maybe part of the conversation, civic engagement, whatever it is. But there's ways people can talk about it when you bring in creative processes that allow people more freedom to talk and say things that they're kind of afraid to say other times. And maybe it's because they're looking at a painting and they're reflecting to the painting, or they created their own painting that shares an experience they had that's hard. So that's arts and quality of life. So that's number 3. And then the fourth thing is connecting the arts sector and the community. Okay. And then basically working on the collaboration between arts organizations, because you do have some really wonderful things going on, and obviously when we work together we do better. And so, you know, thinking about whether there's an arts council, which is one of the ways that they're thinking of moving, maybe not a council, but like a collective, if you will, and what that looks like. How does that fit into the rest of everything else going on? Strengthening the relationship between arts organizations and policymakers and civic leaders and families, so that it's not an other. It's like, this is just a part of who we are, but how can we do that? Or things we talked about as well. And then, you know, taking a look at maybe there's some things with the city where you might get a % for art program. I mean, we can dream, you know, I mean, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But if you don't dream, you don't even start having the conversation. So we talked about that, and that is in the plan, right? And so when we took a look at these 4 things, part of the plan, we laid it out. We have some goals and things like that through the years, which I'm not going to make you listen to right now, but that's part of what you can see when you see the whole plan, is what the goals that the group put together said, we think that this could work out really well. We think this could happen. And I also want to say, when you take a look at it, I want to encourage you to remember that all plans are living, breathing documents, right? We put this plan together here and now, given the realities of where we are now, because we want to have accountability, because that which gets measured gets done. And we can also remember that sometimes stuff changes, and it is appropriate to take a look at a plan a year in and go, we thought that was going to work, but this isn't going to be the right thing anymore, so now we need to pivot. That's the entrepreneurship piece. And so when you take a look at this and you adopt it, I want to encourage you to go, you know, to understand that everybody that was a part of this plan really is working hard to impact Waupaca and the community in an incredibly positive way from this perspective. And they're enthusiastic and committed, and I think that this plan's a good plan. I really do. I've done lots of plans. This is a good plan. So, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I will say that I forgot to specifically say that Henry and Brennan kind of led the way as city staff and put a lot of effort and heart into the process, working with the community. So that was they were a great bridge between the city and the community. So thank you guys. Questions? Anything you want to ask us? We also have the community members here if you want to ask them what they think. But we're open to questions, and Henry and Brennan know where to find us afterwards.
Council? Thank you.
All right, thank you for your support.
Appreciate it. Thank you for making the trip. Yeah, Megan, you have to get a little more enthusiastic.
Can you imagine this at 8 in the morning in a classroom with 80 freshmen? I mean, come on.
Yeah, Council, if you look in your packet on page 208, you'll see the resolution that staff and Ann and Megan are asking us to pass. You can see that resolution. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to read it. We would be looking for a motion to approve that resolution.
So move.
Motion
Second. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Motion by Hackett, second by Chestnut, that we approve of resolution number, help me out here. 1410. This is a resolution adopting the City of Waupaca's Cultural Plan 2018 through 2021. Discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
and Steve Hackett.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
Again, thank you, Ann, and thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it. I know it was quite a drive for you. All right, let's move on. We have another presentation. This has to do with the Riverview Park Plan, and I think Brennan and Henry and Andrew and Justin, I guess, are probably teaming with this a little bit. And
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item is on page 209 of your packet, and this was a culmination of about 8 months worth of work, beginning in 2017, right after we completed the downtown master plan for Main Street. We engaged the services of RDG Planning and Design to look at our Roy Riverview front area, and it was one of the 2 items that was identified within the downtown master plan as a needed area to study following the adoption of that plan. So we engaged RDG to take a look at our riverfront, and that scope of an area wasn't just the riverfront, behind the Main Street buildings, but it actually encompassed areas all the way up to the Danes Hall area, all the way down to the rec center, and really looking at that corridor as a connection piece and a supplement to our downtown plan. This evening we do have Ryan Peterson here to kind of present the plan to the Common Council. Again, this did go through the Park and Recreation Advisory Board about a week and a half ago, and they made a recommendation to adopt it this evening. So, Ryan?
Well, thank you, Brennan, and thank you, members of council, Mr. Mayor, and staff members who have contributed greatly to this project. I think it's been one of the more fun projects that we've been able to work on when we look at riverfronts. There's a lot of opportunity here, and we see great potential as we move forward. Over the next hour and a half, as we go through this plan, just making sure everybody's listening. We'll go into the key themes early on here, but you can see here in the acknowledgments, I really want to thank the steering committee. They contributed greatly to this project and provided great leadership. They steered the direction of this, and ultimately it was them, along with the public and your support, that got us to where we're at today. The first kind of a high-level overview of the project. Early on in the process, we sat down and conducted small group meetings with members of the steering committee, members of council, the park board, to really get their feedback as to what the opportunities were out there. And specifically, as Brendan noted, we're talking about the area that is just behind Main Street there along the riverfront, starting up by the Danes home, going all the way down past the rec center. And so it was a long linear corridor, this green network that really anchors the backside of Main Street. And as part of the downtown plan process, this was identified as an area that could greatly enhance the services and amenities for those people that live here and those potential people that you might want to attract to your community to spend money here. During those conversations, several key themes came about. The first one was connect the riverfront. And what we mean by that is right now there seems to be some challenges as it relates to getting down to the park, also as it relates to traversing the park from the north end to the south end. And so we really wanted to emphasize that. Secondly, we just heard about the arts program in Waupaca. That was another key theme that came out of our conversations. And so integrating the arts through partnerships was another aspect that this plan embraces. Third, aesthetics matter. And so what we mean by that is a lot of people said it would be a big win if we could just clean up what was happening down there. And so that was the key thing. If we do nothing else, make sure that we start to enhance and pick up and clean up what's going on. Third was visibility is key, and again, that's letting people know that there is a park down there. A lot of people said that they don't know what's happening down there, or they haven't been down there, or they don't see it, and so trying to increase visibility into the park, whether that be through vegetation enhancements or ecological restoration, or providing a stronger connection from Main Street down to the park. The next one was the river is the backbone, and really was the connector. Many of the themes kept coming back to that, and so we wanted to focus on how do we use that corridor as a recreational amenity, as an ecological amenity, as an attraction for fishing. You know, we heard that people travel up to 45 minutes to come here in downtown Waupaca to fish. I mean, 45, that's a long drive, and so you think about that asset that you have in your backyard, that's something that shouldn't be overlooked. And then lastly was promoting economic development. And really what that was emphasizing is if we bring people to downtown, which we focused on as part of the downtown master plan, we wanted to keep them here and provide opportunities for them to spend the day, and so that you could have opportunities for people of all abilities, people of all ages and backgrounds. And so really, the longer we can keep people here and the more opportunities that they have, the more likely it is that businesses and the Main Street and Waupaca will thrive. Key objectives that came out of that was, number one, is reimagine how existing parks can serve the community. We wanted to think about ways that we can re-engage the Waupaca residents and the visitors, and then connect the various parks to the river, downtown, and a local destination. So that was the key underlying strategy that drove many of the decisions that were made ultimately that ended up being brought into the master plan. Secondly, we did complete some more what I'll call data-driven analysis. And so we wanted to make sure that while we are hearing from the voices of citizens and members of the community, that we were pairing that information with sound decision-making as it relates to things like what's happening within the river itself. A lot of people don't understand that the river is not a static system. A river moves. So we need to be cognizant of where, if you program something, where you place it. Secondly is looking at where the floodplain is, where the floodway is, and how that might impact some of the things that are happening down there and what opportunities that might bring about. Third, we looked at circulation within downtown, trying to make sure that we connect what happens down there to Main Street. And then fourth, we did an analysis that looks at the various views or those opportunities where you can take your Instagram moment or post your Facebook picture if that's something that you're into, or actually just be captured by those magnificent views as you look down the corridor. The next portion, we started early on, is program out what opportunities were there. And when we looked at downtown as a whole, this is Main Street right here. And so we really thought about the corridor as three components. Number one, on the north end, we called the Wilds, and largely that was because up by Rasmussen Park, you seem to be almost escape Main Street for just a moment in that small acreage that's up there. And so we thought, why not provide a great place where people that are working here, people that are living here, can go out on a walk, can get away for a moment, even if it's just for 10, 15 minutes. And so largely our suggestions here are to preserve and enhance and use the strategy of ecological restoration to clean that area up, improve the challenge trail that's up there. Secondly is Main Street backyard, and this is where I would say most of the heavy lifting within the plan occurs, and we'll get into the details of that here in a moment. But looking at ways in which we can get more people down there, increase the visibility into this area, and really leverage this space for what it could be. And then lastly was the connective, which is this area down here. How can we take what's happening here and connect it to the broader region? How can we connect all the way down to South Park, or even potentially even have a trail that goes all the way out to the Joaquin Trail, so that we can start to create this amenity that will benefit those people that are living here, but then also those people that could potentially come here. We went through a series of brainstorming activities where we started to list out the key amenities that we looked at, and you can see some of those here on the screen. Ecological restoration, a before and after of what that looks like, proposed for Up by the Wilds. Secondly is, I mentioned improving the challenge trail. Third, engaging the river, whether, we heard a lot of people speak about Brainerd's Bridge and the love that children and families have of going up there and playing in the water, and we thought that's something that could potentially happen down here. And also having water trail access. The Waupaca River is part of a larger water trail system, and so having and encouraging that to happen down there, downtown starts to become a hub and an anchor for activities that keep people down here, and the longer they stay here, the more likely they are to help out within the business side. 4 was looking at integrating arts, and our strategy for that was more about creating places that have a theme and have a common vision. Not necessarily placing something along a trail, and while there are great opportunities for that, we're thinking that we need to integrate that into the design of the amenities or things that might happen, whether that be on the back sides of buildings, which we'll talk about, or through the trail system itself. 5 was looking at stream bank restoration. 6 was looking at cleaning up the backsides of the businesses that front Rotary Riverview Park. And looking at ways in which we could leverage both the public and private sector to provide opportunities there for economic redevelopment or development that would leverage those views into the park. And then lastly was looking at having some type of events lawn down there. So those are some of the key program elements that came about. Ultimately, those items ended up in this master plan. And I should note that while we had great leadership through staff and the steering committee, we also did have a number of public events where we invited the people in, the public in, to make comment on this, ask for their feedback, what opportunities are we missing, where could we go wrong, and we wanted to make sure that we were on the right track, and we actually held that open house right out here on the front lawn. And so that was a strong part of this project as well. Again, the wilds to the north, Main Street backyard, and then the connective down here. And so we'll walk through that briefly, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. So here's the Danes' home right here on the north end. A few of the highlights is looking at ecological restoration. Basically, there's a lot of buckthorn, Japanese knotweed, honeysuckle up there that is kind of overgrown. And if you look at the understory, there's some good bones there, but it just needs some help. And we've actually, early in the process, or midway through the process, we did speak with the DNR, and there are grants available out there to help with the restoration of these grounds. And then also creating these walking loops and trails, providing places for potentially pollinator habitat. Rasmussen Park right now is a large expanse of lawn. Perhaps there might be a better use of that space, since from what we gathered, it wasn't used to its greatest capacity, and so providing an outdoor classroom might be something that would be advantageous to the community. One of the other things would be providing a trail, and we worked through several routes, a trail that would go all the way up to Swan Park, and providing a link from Swan Park to downtown, and then connecting that all the way out to the Joaquin Trail was a key strategy, and it's something that I think initially was potentially going to be evaluated further in the bike ped plan when that might resurface. If we go to the next portion here, which we're calling the Main Street backyard, a few of the key things here that we're looking at is, number one, having an improved riverfront. 2 would be having an events lawn. 3 would be getting restrooms down here. We heard a lot about where are the restrooms and where can the public go without using a business, and so that was something that was welcomed by members of the steering committee. We also talked at great length about traffic calming or speed bumps. We understand that people can get going a little bit fast in this area, and so that was something that we wanted to include as well. And then lastly, increasing the access to the river, whether that be for fishing, kayaking, or even water play. The last portion is looking at the southern end of the project area, connecting it back up to City Hall, which in this diagram is right here, and then potentially looking at options for up here on the top of the bluff, and then connecting it over to Hidden Park. And Hidden Park is something that was perhaps a point of concern, or people expressed various opinions about the best use of that park, how we should program it. The strategy that we employed here was to look at ecological restoration, and the vegetation. When you're looking at the park from across the river up here by City Hall or up here by the bank, you really don't know what's over there because there's this wall of vegetation that prohibits views in. But some of the steering committee members who were on the steering committee for this project actually live very close to here, and they let their young children play there. And so we understand that there's activities happening there that perhaps are less than desirable. However, through getting more eyes on it, increasing security, whether that might be through security cameras or better ownership by the neighborhood, we believe, and there's research that shows this, that those types of activities will tend to either disappear or hopefully not, but maybe perhaps move to other places. One of the other elements you can see in this diagram here is a bridge. We did talk about having a bridge here, and we also talked about having a bridge over here at the end of Session Street that would reach over. And both of those options are still on the table. I think what we heard, it wasn't, I don't know if we ever came to a final conclusion. The bridge is a high dollar item and something that was seen as being out there maybe 5 to 10 years. We did hear feedback from the public that the bridge was desired. And it might be an opportunity to help improve the quality of life within the neighborhood and have better access to downtown. But what location and where it goes, I think, is still up in the air. I think the underlying key theme here that I'd like to emphasize that a bridge was reopening the bridge or having a new bridge was desired. I'm going to jump to the end of the document here, and in your packet you have the full report. However, there's a couple key things here we wanted to talk about in terms of the prioritization. We did look through this. It is a 20 to 25 year vision, and we recognize that in a community of this size you cannot bite off all of these improvements at one time. And so we worked very carefully to look at what grant opportunities are out there. We also met early on with members of staff about how we might finance something like this. And the approach that we took was that the city would not be responsible for more than 50% of any of these projects. And so we worked through a funding strategy that ultimately would leverage both the public and the private sources, even partnerships with local businesses. We did meet with several local business owners and representatives to get their feedback. And ultimately where we ended up with from a funding strategy is that somewhere around 3 to 4 to 1. So every dollar that the taxpayer would contribute, they'd be returned $3 or $4 depending on which funding scenario you went with. So a lot of the funding and the way that we set these projects up to program would come from potentially the DNR, the Department of Transportation, or private funding sources. And so ultimately trying to be responsible and fiscal with the dollars spent, but leverage the dollars of the taxpayers. And then I'll conclude here with the high priority projects. These are the ones that were identified as early success stories if they were to move forward within the next 0 to 5 years. The first one was looking at cleaning up the back sides of the buildings in Rotary Riverview Park, and actually developing some type of a program where the private sector, there could potentially be a foundation or there could be a funding source that would go towards cleaning up, enhancing, repainting, tuck pointing, improving balconies, screening trash cans, slowing traffic. So that facade and site improvement program was a really high priority. The secondly was we understand that the majority of the business owners down here pay flood insurance. And so if you're going to do anything down here, you need to have some type of reassurance that your business is going to thrive in the future. And so one of the action items was to do a flood protection study that would look at the Waupaca River and if there are opportunities out there to revisit the delineation of the floodway to reduce the burden on the potential business owners that are down there so that they have the confidence of investing there and cleaning up and knowing that you know, they're not going to be paying a higher tax bill or a flood insurance bill because the value of their property goes up. And so that was something we talked at great length about. Rasmussen Park, Washington Park, improving the Challenge Trail, fixing some of the bridges up there, the boardwalks, and doing ecological restoration. That was a big one, and there seemed to be grants available after speaking with the local representative of the DNR that would be willing to fund the majority of those improvements. I mentioned a trail to Swan Park, and this would be an improvement that would really benefit downtown, but also the surrounding community. If you could go to a ball game out at Swan Park and you have 2 or 3 hours off, why not walk the mile that would take you to get downtown and have lunch or visit the park, go fishing, or provide, again, it goes back to that strategy of providing multiple options for family members that might be here for different reasons. And then the last two was the park shelter, restrooms, and event lawn down in the park, and then habitat restoration and park cleanup. Those were the key things that came out of the project. As I said earlier, it's been a real fun and it's been a joy to work with the steering committee and the group here as we've been able to really push some, I think, unique ideas forward that will ultimately fit within the big picture of what downtown, what we believe downtown is trying to strive towards. And with that, I would thank you and then ask for any questions if you have them.
Brennan or Henry?
I guess I just want to make 1 or 2 comments. The one voice that's not being heard tonight, and I have to commend, is Aaron Jensen. Prior to his departure from the city, really was the spearhead leader for this project. I was serving as more of an advisory role on this from the downtown perspective. But I have to commend Aaron and Ryan, you know, when they looked at this is a plan, just like the downtown redevelopment plan that was prepared for Main Street, and you know there's projects in here that are identified, but I really have to commend Ryan and Aaron really taking the time before we brought this forward to really look at funding sources. You know, there are a significant amount of projects that are identified as enhancements or improvements in the downtown, and the time that they took to look for those resources and kind of come up with that 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 to 20, and really even go out into the community and into the public and actually talk to some of the key stakeholders and develop those relationships early on. Again, I have to thank Aaron and Ryan for doing that, and what was presented again is a plan, and we look forward to working with Andrew and his department and whoever the next Park and Rec director is to move this forward and start hammering down on some of these objectives as well.
All right. Thank you, Brennan. Ryan, thank you. Appreciate. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm just curious about what have we done with the old bridge? Still there waiting for us?
It's sitting there.
To be determined.
Yeah.
We're looking at, I mean, as Ryan identified, one of the things we need to look at is continued conversation with the DNR regarding the floodplain down there, what we can or can't do. That's one of the key pieces, and honestly, it's a significant cost. And as you'll continue to see here shortly, there's a lot of projects and capital projects going on right now within the city, and how that works moving forward. We'll be working with Kathy and her department to hopefully be able to fund some of these improvements down the road and start looking for grant opportunities as well. Mayor, there is a resolution on this tonight that we'll just to adopt it. So
this is resolution 1409.
That is correct.
Right? Okay. So we're you've heard the presentation. This is a plan resolution here, so as you understand it, this is their plan moving forward here. Obviously, any things that would happen in the future would have to come back to council for further approval in funding and so on. So staff is asking that you approve of this resolution number 1409.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayo, second by Prochatsky, that we approve of resolution number 1409. This is a resolution adopting the City of Waupaca Riverfront Park Master Plan. So, thank you. Any questions? Any other questions? Sandy will call the roll.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
and Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, next we have, you know what, although I know Randy has a drive to take here too, I know this next item will take a little while, so I'm going to ask that we, Brennan, if you could just swap these two around and talk about the special use permit for 3H Brew LLC.
Yep, thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item is on page 238 of the packet. And this is a special use permit for the project located down on Churchill Street for the operation of a brewery. If you drive by it, there's definitely been a lot of construction that's been going on right now. We were a little bit delayed on getting the special use to the council as we were working with surrounding properties and neighbors to acquire enough parking and shared parking agreements to accommodate this project. But again, this is for the operation of a brewery located down on Churchill Street. It's been a pleasure working with Mike Strike, who is here this evening as the owner of this project, and we look forward to it opening up here in the next couple months.
Okay, so we're looking at approving this special use permit. Brennan, you don't have any further recommendations, so you have cleaned everything up
That is correct. I mean, this was. I mean, if the council remembers, we rezoned all the properties around there about a month and a half ago to B1 general business, and the operation of a brewery is a special use permit within that district. Otherwise, we have been working to clean up the rest of the conditions, and staff is satisfied to date.
Mike, you sat through a long meeting already tonight, so if you'd like to say a few words, I think council would like to hear from you.
Hello, everybody. I just got to say I wasn't aware that to open a business in Waupaca, you needed an extensive briefing of the entire inner works of the city of Waupaca. Thank you. Very informative. Any questions anyone has? We are working hard on the brewery.
Looks good. I don't have a question, but I got a comment. I got a mug in the freezer just waiting for it to open.
As well, so do I. We're a little ways out. We're putting some extra effort and time into everything to make sure it's all done well and won't cause us problems in the near future at all. So I think you'll all be happy with the finished product.
Well, you know, it's a good project, and no doubt down on Churchill Street, this would be anything that happens down on Churchill
2
Street.
blocks from the house.
Yeah, it's
2 miles from my.
Sandy, did you bring water, did you say tonight? Okay. So we appreciate that you are investing in our community, and Churchill Street obviously is in some need of some improvements, and so we appreciate that you've chosen that area to do it also. So thank you for that. We'd be looking for council to approve the special use permit that's in front of you.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hackett, second by Chestnut, that we approve of the special use permit for 3H Brew LLC, which is located at 804 Churchill Street. Any additional discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
and Dave Peterson.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
All right. Mike, thank you.
Thanks for moving me ahead, too. Thank you, everyone.
All right, let's move on then. We have the city parking lot. We're looking at that project, so we're looking at awarding a bid for the City Hall Square parking lot reconstruction. Brennan, I think you're the lead on this. We also have Randy Sanford from SEH here for us tonight too, so.
And we still have Ryan here, so he's
Ryan,
sticking around for a few
right.
minutes, I think, as well. But
Great.
thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item starts on page 234 of the packet. And as mentioned, Randy Sanford, as our consultant engineer, is here to assist with this presentation this evening. Within your packet is, I guess we'll start back at the beginning a little bit. In 2016, as everyone's aware, we engaged the RDG and SEH to prepare a downtown master plan, which was adopted in 2017. And one of the, you saw one of the outcomes this evening from one of the immediate impact projects that we wanted to do, which was the development of a riverfront plan, which was adopted earlier this evening, and thank you for that. One of the other immediate projects that we wanted to tackle ahead of the reconstruction of Main Street in 2021 was the reconstruction of the City Hall Square, City Hall parking lot to accommodate additional parking within the downtown area. As part of the overall Main Street project, with improvements that are needed for pedestrian safety and just regular traffic standards, we were losing some parking stalls in the downtown area. As we went through the downtown planning process, RDG came up with the concept that could accommodate additional parking around City Hall Square. It is a high impact area and need for parking, especially during the fall and winter months when there's a lot of programs going on around here for the public and the community. So we brought forward an idea earlier or late last year or middle of last year to the Common Council to engage RDG and SEH to design the reconstruction of our City Hall Square project, as you can see in our packet this evening. So we went through that process, and the design complements what the council adopted from the downtown master plan, the aesthetics, the look, the feel. Those were the main goals and objectives that we were looking at when we were looking at the overall design and reconstruction of City Hall Square. And I think we've achieved that with the design that's presented to you this evening. We started this process late last year with the design. The original scope, as we worked through the spring and summer of last year, identified a preliminary budget of $520,000 for this project, and that really was started more as a rehabilitation project around City Hall Square with the reconstruction of Main Street, or excuse me, reconstruction of the parking lot. But as we got into the project and we started identifying more of the project and starting the critical design, we identified that there was, we did a scope creep, unfortunately. We had other issues that were identified as part of the design, and that was enhancements to the storm sewer that we needed to be completed, the replacement of a 4-inch water line that surrounds the site as well. And we were also preparing for some of the improvements that were going to be identified in 21 with the reconstruction of Main Street with enhanced lighting system around the City Hall Square. Again, going back to that look and feel. We were notified late January, early February of the cost overrun of the project, and we as a design team internally identified that we would still want to move the project forward, at least bid the project to see where we're at. So with the recommendation of our consultant, we actually broke the project into 2 pieces. As you can see in your packet, there was a base bid, which included the reconstruction of East Fulton Street and Jefferson Street, along with the City Hall parking lot. And then there was also an addendum or a alternate bid, which would be the inclusion of Union Street as part of this project. Moving forward through your packet, this evening, staff has identified 3 options for the council to consider. Option number 1 is to, I will say this, we did take bids on April 24th, and the construction numbers came in at over $1 million for the full reconstruct of the project. Working with staff and our consultants, we identified some cost savings at around $108,000 that we could achieve with reductions in some of the aesthetics of the project and removal of some of the amenities for the project. So the 3 options that were presented to the council this evening is option 1, which is a reduced project scope. It's still to rebid all 3 roads or reconstruct all 3 roads in the parking lot, but you will see the total savings of about $108,000. Option number 2 that we're presenting would be to just award the base bid with cost reductions as well. And again, that would not include the reconstruction of East Union Street. There is an option 3, which would be a no build. However, with the no build option, we can anticipate that this project most likely will not be constructed until after 2021, and most likely not until after the proposed plan for the construction of a new DPW facility in 2023, which is of great concern, again, because one of the main priorities was to get this project done ahead of time so that we could provide supplemental parking when reconstruction of Main Street occurred in 2021. Moving further in the memo, we did work with Kathy and her department to identify some reallocation of funds within the budgeting or the capital budget for this year that could be utilized to support the construction of the project, and those are noted within the memo as well. And with that, I will turn it over to Randy if he has anything to add, or to the council for discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. I think it's important to understand what we were talking about even for tonight. A lot of plans were looked at, and the plans are necessary and they're adopted, and at some point that vision and needs to come to reality. And we're during this design, I think some of that reality is taking shape. So as we move forward with that, as Brendan said, our design team did kind of look through after the concepts were truth. Looked through that, we notified we are over budget, and just to backtrack a little bit, we notified, made a plan with staff, and continued with that plan. I think you had some flexibility in the way it was bid. You had some options there tonight, as Brennan stated, of doing the entire project with some, I'll say, some amenities reduction, not all, some. So you still have some of the amenities that are in your plan. We think the guiding principles are still being followed from that downtown master plan with both of these options. However, keeping in mind we're trying to stay within your budget, current 2018 budget, as your staff has reviewed. So with that, I can answer any technical questions that you might have on this project as you start to deliberate on which option you prefer to move forward with.
I guess I'm kind of confused between option 1 and option 2, where the savings seems to be the same. And
Yep. Option, you have this in both options. You have the same cost reductions through the reductions, some of the amenities. Again, that comes in the form of, not purchasing some of the planter boxes, the bike racks. We're removing some of the speed that we had identified 2 speed tables in the project that would be removed, along with the pavers that were incorporated into that. But the main difference between option 1 and option 2 is option 2 does not reconstruct Union Street.
And additionally, I think in the packets there's a overview map, and the base bid is Jefferson and Fulton. Yep, East Fulton. And there's a box around Union Street. The box is the alternate bid that was prescribed in the actual bid documents to the contractor. And to get to your point of the savings, I did have a conversation with the contractor multiple times and talk to them about removing some of these items. If he's okay with that, our contract does call for that. We can do that. Certainly don't want to take money away from contractor if we're not supposed to, but he was comfortable with these. We asked about other kind of I'll say value engineering questions we had for him. So he's very helpful. They're ready to get started on the project. They're local to the area here and had an aggressive bid as compared to the other three bidders.
Chuck, go ahead.
I just, ever since these bids came in and what we had allocated for this and it got out there, we're so far over budget, all I'm hearing is negatives about this whole project. And, you know, even $520,000 or whatever we had budgeted for a parking lot in people's minds was way too much. And that's, I haven't heard one good thing about rebuilding any of this from anybody that has come up and talked to me. So I'm just, it seems like it's just got way out of hand for the people that have talked to me. They're just fed up with this. And they say quite a few negative things about some of our staff here at City Hall. I just don't, I can't figure it out what's going on here. So, and neither can people that I talk to. So it seems like it's got way out of hand.
Okay. Okay. I think it's important that we fully understand what the project entails. And Brennan and Randy, maybe you can lead us down the path of how we got there and the dollar amounts that we're proposing to use for the project. And before I let you guys talk, I gotta tell everyone that we have had a number of meetings at the staff level and also met with Randy too. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of where we're at on this project, and that's why you have three options tonight to look at those three options and decide what you believe is best for the downtown, for this area here. So keep an open mind and make sure that you understand fully what's going on here, and then we can make our ultimate decision, hopefully yet tonight, on how we want to move forward. So.
Yeah, so initially, the you know, if I kind of back up, the initial project, as you suggested, was based out of the downtown master plan, and that was a reconstruction of the parking lot. However, as the budgeting started, it was evident that the parking lot wasn't just the parking lot, it was the roads around the parking lot too. So that's the start of the discussion of how is this going to meet the guiding principle of the master plan with the look and the feel of that project. So as we started down that path, we can continue to talk about, you know, what it's going to look like and what it should be. So to the mayor's point, there's a complete revamp of all of the electrical lights and lighting in this area. So all three streets would be kind of the start of what you would expect to see in a downtown Main Street. And if I back up to the project that you also is running concurrently or parallel to that, there's some decisions to be made about spacing and types of lighting. We have that at least figured out as a base for the Main Street. So this project here would be the start of the look and feel with lighting on this project. So there's close to $200,000 worth of upgraded lighting and amenities. The lighting, again, is the start of your look and feel of the downtown Main Street. And so that's a big chunk of that. However, as we got into some of that design, some of that $200,000 cost is setting yourselves up for the actual Main Street, the lighting that's going to be down there. So there's some transformers that are being put in to help the start of that project, so we don't have to get back into the other streets as Main Street starts. So there's some start of the project there. The actual poles themselves, taller, they're 20 feet. The spacing is a little increased, so you have good, I'll say better lighting levels. You have more energy efficient lighting. You have some dimming capabilities that are in this parking lot area for the lighting. So I would say, you you know, as far as is the scope creep that was being talked about, mostly it's in that electrical, along with the full reconstruction of those. So not just lighting, but there's a fair amount of storm sewer issues. As Justin knows, your storm sewer throughout this downtown system is severely undersized. As part of this project, it was necessary to add some storm sewer that would contend with the downtown as Main Street got built. So there is some extra costs to provide some relief along Main Street until Main Street happens, and then reroute that through this area in this parking lot. So there's some added cost to that, as stated in your memo. Just the general roads that are in there, I think the mayor brought up a good point. We have a few real specific discussions on what the actual roadway costs are. So roadway costs would be anything that would be pertinent to asphalt, concrete, curb and gutter. So in general, in storm sewer, excuse me, not storm, but anything along the roadways, we were able to get the cost broken down, and that was roughly $570,000 just for new asphalt, curb and gutter, and we try to do some savings within the contract for the contractor by reusing some of the asphalt as base to help save some costs. So I think we got really good bids to your point of doing the entire roadway work, but some of the I'll say amenities and the new look to the area to start for the downtown is part of that what that downtown master plan kind of guided us towards. So getting to your point about the scope creep, we understood that. We did meet as a group a couple of times to decide that whether or not we should move forward with the project, and we decided as a group to move forward to see what the actual costs were instead of shelving it at the time point within a design that we were at.
Yeah, you know, the whole thing, it says City Hall parking lot, and that's what people see, and they go, how can you spend $1 million on a parking lot?
Right.
You know, they don't see everything else because that wasn't out there in the scope of this thing.
Right.
They just see a parking lot and they go, well, how can you spend $1 million on a parking lot?
Right. And I guess the point that I brought up, that just the parking lot and the roads of the streets and the parking lot itself was $570,000, brand new, not rehabbed. So I think you got some really good costs on that. However, it's more reconstruction than we had originally anticipated.
Other questions, comments? Eric, go ahead.
Well, one comment, I guess, you know, I'm not thrilled about the extra cost either, but to me, it seems like if we're going to do what we were originally going to do, it makes sense to continue it onto Union and get it all done at once. And I mean, I think it's going to look real nice, and I think it's going to give us a peek, as you are saying, what the whole downtown is going to look like when it's all done. And I'm hoping when it's all said and done, if we move forward with it, that people are going to like what they see. And we as staff and council are just going to have to explain to people that it's not just a parking lot, that there's more to it. So we're going to have to educate people into what the scope of this really is.
You know, it's interesting because we learned that back when we did a street project before Justin was here, and we called it it was a water sewer project that we did, and it was millions of dollars to do that project, and we called it Pleasant Street. Well, Pleasant Street's about a block long, and everybody's going, how come we spent $6 million on Pleasant Street? Well, it didn't. It included the whole area. And that's kind of what we have here too, I think, Chuck, is that we probably should have done a better job of naming the project itself. There's no doubt about that. Scott?
Kathy, how is these funding sources you've listed here to help us get this project done, how is that going to impact what we were planning to do? I see something about land purchase, and you know, what's going to happen if we...
Well, if we go through negotiations and we end up having to do a land purchase, we'll have to find some other source of funding. So right now, we don't have anything concrete. We're still in negotiations and talks and stuff. So the funds are available. We did borrow from them. So, and my recommendation would be is to use those types of funds. And at that time, when we get to the fall, when we're borrowing for the equipment, that would be another option. If at that point we have something in fruition for land purchase, but I haven't looked at bringing any additional funds in.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah, Paul.
I agree with Eric. I think we need to do this whole thing. We need to do it right the first time. Kathy's identified some extra funding for the 4-inch water line. The water department's going to pay for a good chunk of it, or probably all of the water line. And the land purchase and a furniture replacement, I think the money originally allocated for that, I think delaying those and putting that money to use in this project, I think that's a good allocation of funds. So I think it's very important that we do this and we do it right the first time.
I fully agree.
Dave?
I'm just a little concerned. What would Union Street getting cut out, what would that require us to do to get them caught up later on? Take them up in 10 years and then do a new thing, or I'm trying to figure out the difference there.
Well,
Union in and Union out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only difference with the Union out is that it probably would be done the same time that we would do Main Street. Is kind of the theory there. And originally, the project was just to do East Fulton Street and the parking lot. But I think as we looked at it further, and there are some differences even with the staff as I talked to them, whether it's important to do Union Street or not, but I agree. I think if we're going to do it, let's do all three facets of that project. But the answer to your question is it probably would be done the same time the Main Street project would be done. And to remember, the main reason that we're doing this project is to add parking during the Main Street project. You know, I mean, not only to enhance what it looks like in that area, but we're also adding parking stalls too when they really need to be done. Okay, so I mean, that was the ultimate goal in doing it ahead of time.
You know, there's this little note at the bottom that I'm just wondering about. The Common Council chooses to proceed forward with any of the options listed above. That removes the extras, okay? They'd like to request the option to utilize unexpended contingency funds. How much is that? I mean, what are we looking at if you decide at this point where this note comes in? How much money is that going to be?
Right now, the project budget, as you see, which is $967,000, or $963,000, sorry, whatever the number, $965. We're carrying about a $70,000 contingency on that right now, and again, and that's pretty typical. We're actually probably under a little bit regarding that, but in working with Randy, we've identified, you'd want to carry a contingency with this project. Again, we don't anticipate, any issues coming up, but until we actually open up the roads and everything else, we don't know what's below ground. We have, because of cutting some of the amenities out, I know Henry's had some conversations and we're looking at outside private investments for possibly incorporating some of those amenities back in as well.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Well, I got to tell you, there's parts of the project that were being put out there that I feel that should be participated, public participation, so not through tax dollars, through donations, and that's why you're seeing about $108,000 that's being subtracted out, because we're hoping that we can, and Henry feels that that's obtainable, that we can get public participation. Because remember, that was the presentation on Main Street too, is that the things above ground, like the nicer receptacles and the bike racks and all of that stuff, that we would look for donations for those things. So we pulled that, I asked for that to be pulled back when you're seeing this bid here too. There was also raised crosswalks with pavers in there too. And although that would look very nice, it was very expensive, and I felt that it was better that we just went with a normal crosswalk. And as Justin had explained to us too, we probably might even get a better price on the asphalt if we just run asphalt straight through instead of blocking it off by having crosswalks in the way there too. Now, that does reduce what staff thought the project should look like, but it's still, I hope they agree that it's still a good project, and especially if we can get people to participate in doing the above ground stuff, everybody's going to feel good about making the city square look that much nicer.
So then those funds wouldn't go to put the pavers back or to, okay.
No. I mean,
At this point, it's so much money.
I guess I missed that when you were reading that, but I made it a directive of staff that any of those above ground items have to come from city participation. They can't come from city taxpayer dollars. So now we might have an overage. I mean, that's why you have contingencies. So we might have some areas that are over and some that are under, and it might be more over than under, and that's why you have that contingency there.
Right.
And that is available if they find something that they'd like to do, they'll come back to council and ask you if they can use that contingency for that. But you're not approving using that contingency for anything but contingency right now, if you approve it tonight.
It's just, I think it's a little hard to swallow something that doubles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Randy, I think where the budget, had we caught it soon enough, could have been changed, because we were thinking of a rehab and not a total reconstruction.
Correct.
So these three legs, I'm being simplistic, the 3 blocks are total reconstructions, right?
Correct.
And within the 1 block, we've got a larger asphalt area that's a parking lot. Now, when we get to the Main Street project, we're talking about a 4-block project that at this point is estimated, and you built some inflation into it, but when you when you estimated that, you estimated total reconstruction.
Correct.
Now, I mean, I'm trying to get my arms around this. We've got 3 blocks at, say, $1 million with the contingency, and we've got a project up on Main Street, potentially of 4 blocks with a $5 million budget. Now, there's probably more poles and there's, more amenities and that kind of thing, but to me, I'm thinking this is a good value compared to what we might do up on Main Street, because this is a total reconstruct. Is that am I misstating that, or is there something you should add to that?
Yeah, I think you're, thinking of it correctly. However, there are a lot of other factors on Main Street that drive the project up. It has more traffic, for one. It has traffic lights currently. There's a fair amount of storm sewer and sanitary sewer. There is no sanitary sewer on this. You have main trunk lines of storm sewer, where here you have some side trunk lines that we tried to increase. So a good value. I think it's it's hard to put an average on the 3 blocks of this nature. I'll say I think you had good competition for the value that you say that we have here, and I think with the 2021 project that comes out with DOT, you'll have good competition there as well with that size of a project, so you'll see some value as well.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve of option number 1.
I'll second it.
Okay, and we got to, I want to make sure before I say this motion, this includes the funding as stated in option 1, 2, how they're going to fund it?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
All right. Okay, we have a motion by Mayo, second by Olson, that we approve of option number 1, which is in your packet. Actually, it explains it pretty good on pages 236, wait, is that right? 236, 237. The total cost of the project is just under $965,000, and the funding will come from the scenario that's listed below. Any further discussion? Dave?
I'd still like it cleared up just a little in my mind yet with that Union Street. To me, you're saving $300,000 right now by not doing Union Street. It does look like Union Street also would be done all the way, one more block further, all the way down to the hotel now. Am I right on that? Past your old office, Brian?
With the Union Street, where you're seeing it go further past, is we had to go extend it because of the water main extension, because of the 4-inch water main. So in order to get to, Justin, help me out here. There's a valve there.
Well, there's a valve just past the bank drive, and we have to get to tie in to get rid of the 4-inch.
So everything east of Jefferson Street is just gonna be a patch in the road, and then everything west would be a full reconstruct.
There is on Union Street though, there is, help me out, there's an additional cost on Union Street below ground, isn't there? I thought there was. Like storm sewer or?
On Union Street, there's some additional costs for electrical.
Okay.
The utilities pole that provides the electrical power for the downtown grid is there that we have to tie into and add some electrical underground to the transformers that are set up for the Main Street project that will continue to operate the way they are. And then the new lights that are going to be on the city square will operate separately from that pole. So we had to add some electrical underground for that. So there is again, set up for the Main Street project, so we don't have to do that work later.
Okay.
But we do plan to do Union Street at some point now, or as part of the Main Street.
Yes.
Then I guess I'm in favor of doing it all, this part right now.
Yes. Okay, any other questions or discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
No.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
No.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
6 ayes, 2 noes, motion carried.
Okay. Thank you for helping us, Randy, through this process.
And
Appreciate
just
it.
for the council's benefit, construction will be starting after Strawberry Fest, so right around June 18th.
Thank you.
Okay, we did F, which is a special use permit. So I guess, Brendan, you're still up. We have the rezoning of the property down by the airport.
You get to have these meetings where everything's mine. This item is on page 250 of your packet, and this is a rezone out near the Cap Services subdivision on the northwest corner of Commercial Drive and Webster Drive. We have received an application for the construction of a 48-unit apartment complex, kind of as the entrance into the Cap Services subdivision. The property is currently zoned I-1 light industrial, and the applicant was seeking a rezone to RM3 for residential multifamily development. In your packet, you can see kind of the proposed site plan. That is on page 258 of the project, or of the packet, and then 259 is the location where the rezone is being requested. The Planning Commission did review this, the rezone, and made a recommendation to approve to the Common Council, and we are still working through the site plan process, and that should be approved in June. Just for the council's benefit, we will be bringing forward a developer's agreement probably within the next month to month and a half for this project as well. So this is the beginning steps of the redevelopment or the future construction of 48 apartment units.
Right, great. And understand this is an ordinance, it's the first reading, so we do not approve it at this meeting, but we will put this on the agenda for our next meeting, and hopefully staff will be looking for an approval on this. This does not affect their timeline, as Brennan has said, because they plan on coming back to City Planning Commission at the next meeting with their site plan.
Correct.
Right, okay. All right, so that's it for G. H, I think we're on to Justin now. We have 2018 Wells 3 and Wells 6 rehabilitation project.
Thank you, Mayor. My memo can be seen on page 260 in the packet. So this is part of our 10-year rotating maintenance schedule of our wells. Up this year is well 3 and 6. So putting that together, we put that out to bid, sealed bid request. Early April, we received 3 on May 3rd. You can see right there in the memo what we got for the base bid. Now that is the minimum amount we're going to need to have done for these wells. But as we pull the motors and pull the pumps off and look to see what's down in the borehole, we could have more, we expect to have more maintenance, more replacements. So we typically add about an extra $10,000 per. So what I would like to do, we budgeted $55,000, and what I'd like to request is to award the project to the low bidder with an amount not to exceed $45,000, understanding that we're not going to just spend the money just because it was awarded, but to have that cushion, if we can do a little extra to maintain our wells, increase their productivity, we have that, and we're still $10,000 under budget. So, so I'm just looking for the action to award the to the lowest bidder, and again to not to exceed $45,000.
All right, so Justin's recommending that we approve entering into this agreement for an amount not to exceed $45,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fair, second by Hackett, that council awards the 2018 Well 3 and Well 6 rehabilitation project to CTW Corporation for an amount not to exceed $45,000. Discussion? Sandy will take the roll.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
and Dave Peterson.
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, thank you, Justin. License report number 1406, Chief Ozell is recommending that this individual does not receive an operator's license because of a background check. He was given the opportunity to come and speak to council tonight, and he's not here, obviously, so I guess I would agree with the chief that we recommend license report number 1406, which means that we are not giving an operator's license to Richard Dockery, Jr.
So moved.
Motion by Hackett.
Second.
Second by Chestnut, that we approve of license report number 1406.
We disapprove.
Well, we're approving the license report, which is not approving.
Okay.
Okay? I know, it's different than what we usually do, but yeah.
Right.
We gotta change it up once in a while, you guys. All right, ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. No long issue projects tonight. We've had that already. Communications, recommendations of the mayor. First of all, have a great Memorial Day if I don't see you. Expect our first meeting in June also looks like it's gonna be pack-filled too, so be ready. Maybe we can get Sandy to bring some water and cookies again for that meeting. All right, so we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fair, second by Peterson, that we adjourn till our next regular scheduled meeting, which is set up for June 5th, 2018, subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us tonight, attending. Have a safe drive home.